Today's guest has a master's in counseling, a clinical residency, and training in traditional and contemporary methods of transformation. She helps people get free of emotional eating so that they can lose the extra weight and keep it off. She has a TED talk and is the author of What's Really Eating You: Overcoming the Triggers of Comfort Eating. Welcome to the show, Renee. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Toby.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to have you here. I don't know if that's recognizable in my voice. Like I'm so happy to be speaking with you because what you've gone through in life and what you are teaching everyone out there in the world is something that is very, very vital because a lot of people that I know of also are struggling with this and trying to get rid of those weights and trying to keep off the weights, and I'm so happy that you have been able to go through that experience already. Like I would love to learn from your 40 years of dieting before you overcame emotional eating. Like what was that experience like for you?
It was difficult. I looked around when I was about 10 years old, and I was a red haired child, which at the time was not a thing. It's much more popular and accepted now. But I looked around at all my little friends, and they were thin and blonde or brunette, and I was a chunky redhead. And I thought, I just don't want to be that different to everybody else. So I went home and I asked my mother if we could do something about it. And she said, well, you're a bit young, but okay. So we began on a diet and we did really well for a month or so. And then something would happen. We'd either go visit family or go out for a meal or have a birthday party or something. And it would throw us off our diet. And it took us longer to get back to it. So we would essentially just regain what we had lost and start again. And that went on 40 ridiculous years. Obviously, I was not a very fast
Wow.
learner, but it was hard because you lose 10 pounds and you're feeling great.
Yes.
And then you think, I can just have this, or I can just have that, and they multiply themselves. Or maybe, you've had bad day at school or at work, and you think, I just need something to soothe myself. And food works so well. And then before you know it, you've gained back that 10 pounds and then some. That's that up and down thing. It's just ridiculous, but we do it.
Yes. And I'm so happy that you're able to overcome emotional eating. So I'd love you to, first of all, educate us on this. Like what is emotional eating? Can you explain it to a layman out there?
Sure. Emotional eating is eating for any reason other than hunger. So we eat because we're sad, bored, mad, frustrated, annoyed, but we also eat when we're happy, when we're trying to celebrate. And
Yes,
one
that's true.
feels better than the other, but the result is always the same because we
Yeah,
tend
true.
to we feast for holidays. Or when the family
Yes.
gets together, we feast. And that's wonderful, except that we tend to overeat. And if your emotional eating causes you to overeat, then the problem shows up on your waistline.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. So, all of this festive period and everything, makes us to develop that habit of emotional and comfort eating.
Yes, yes, they do.
Okay.
And it's like, well, this made me feel good today, and we've got all these leftovers, and I don't want to waste them. But what I say is you can either waste them by throwing them in the trash or waste them around your waistline. Take your pick.
Yeah, I don't want to waste them around my waistline. Renee, I would love to dive back a little bit to, right now, also to your experience of, trying to diet or be on that diet yo-yo for 40 years. You went through that phase in your life, and afterwards you were able to overcome emotional eating. So what made the difference for you in 2012, and how has it been up to now? Like what made that difference? How were you able to overcome that emotional eating in year 2012
Hmm.
and all through up until now? How have you been able to do it?
Well, part of it was I kind of hit my limit, as it were, because I had started the new year, as I started every new year, with the resolution to lose the weight. And I did well for a couple of weeks, and then I'd get off, and I'd do well for a couple of weeks, and I get off. And finally, when we got to April, I was standing in my closet, Toby, and I thought, not even my fat clothes fit. I had to use a safety pin around my waistband so I could go to work that day. And I came home and I thought, okay, this is the time it's got to change because I can't buy all new clothes. And I was so upset because this was going to be your year. And what have you done? So
Mm.
when I got home that day, I started doing some research and I came across this term that I hadn't really acknowledged before, which was emotional eating. And I thought, okay, great. Now I know what it is. How do I fix that? And I didn't know. I just didn't know. So I actually hired someone to help me work through some of the stuff. Because, I mean, the thing about resolutions is the only way to make them work is to resolve the issue that is driving the problem. So I had to resolve the issues that were driving me toward food for comfort or stress relief. And, it took a while to work through all the stuff. But once I did, then I could think differently. I didn't have to just go to food because that's always soothed me before. I've got
Yeah.
other things. And I don't have all of that extra baggage in the back of my head making me feel bad. So I
Yes.
didn't
Yes.
need so much comfort.
Wow. So if you don't need so much comfort, then you don't need comfort eating.
Right. Yeah.
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 Yes.
Because I had resolved all the issues. And I actually reached my goal the week before my 50th birthday. And I don't
Wow.
know
That's
if you know
awesome.
this about women, Toby, but that's kind of a time of life where things change and it gets a little bit harder. And it's probably more hard in our minds than it is actually on our waists. But I have spent the last 9 years at the same weight. I plan to hit my 10th anniversary at this weight.
Yes. You will do it. I believe that. Yes, I believe that. And from your story, I was able to pick the point that your personal development, your self worth, the way you looked at yourself also affected comfort eating or influenced it in some ways. So, can you explain the relationship between your self worth, the way you see yourself, and comfort eating? How do they relate to each other, and how do they influence each other?
Well, I believe the real pandemic worldwide is low self esteem. It's not
Mm.
that thing that shall not be named. There are so many women in particular and men who struggle with their self esteem. So when they're feeling bad about themselves or someone has said something awful to them, then of course they're going to need comfort. And from from the womb, we learned that putting something in our mouths make us feel better. I mean, you can see sonograms with babies with their thumbs in their mouths. And when they come out, if they're crying, we give them the bottle or the breast or a pacifier, and they're soothed by that most of the time. Sometimes they need a diaper change, but. And as we get older, long about 2, 3, 4, they take the pacifier away. So they go to sucking their thumb again or to biting their nails. And as they get older and get to make the choice, then they go to food, pizza, donuts. And it always makes you feel better because it is that oral soothing that works so well for us. So when we feel bad, we're trying to make ourselves feel better in the way we know how. And that's usually putting something in our mouths. Now, that's not the only way, but it's available, it's easy, it's legal, and everyone else does it that way. So, yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. So that means if we really want to go to the root cause of it, or if we want to overcome comfort eating or emotional eating, we have to go to the root cause of it all and work on our self-esteem, work on our
hmm
self-worth. Are there like some advice you could share with us or some tips on how we could boost our self-esteem and our self-worth?
Well, part of it is choosing
Mm.
because we all have this sort of inner critic that reminds us every day of the things that we do wrong. You wake up in the morning and you're thinking, wow, I should have done this yesterday, or I should have done that, or someone else tells you that you don't have the value you think you do, or the value you think you don't, more likely, because most people do struggle with feeling good about themselves. And, something that was taught to us as we were growing up, part of it was a way to keep us in line. Shame is a great tool for teaching a child how to do something or not to do something. Unfortunately, it has some pretty negative consequences later because we can't get rid of it until we choose to. So, building your self esteem, and I call it healing your heart because that's what really needs to happen. We need to look at all of these things that we have believed for years and years and years and take them apart. I have a client later today. I mean, she's starting an entire summer of healing her heart. So we're going to talk through the things that she's struggling with. We're going to talk through the emotional triggers that she has, the addictions, emotional addictions, not necessarily physical addictions, but try to build that self-esteem so that she can then move forward in her life. I mean, I call my company
Yeah.
Pack Your Own Bag because our
Yes.
baggage gets packed for us along the way, right? I remember many, many, many times growing up when someone would say to me, I'd rather be dead than red on the head. Well, I couldn't do anything about my hair color. And I thought, I must be dysfunctional if I have red hair. Oh my gosh. Well, that was some baggage I had to unpack because it was affecting me. It was affecting my self esteem. And we all have stuff like that, stuff that's not accurate, but we believed it. So the things your parents said to you, the things your teachers said to you, the things kids on the playground said, we have to unpack that so we can heal it. And once your heart gets healed, nothing's going to stop you.
Ah, that's a good assurance of of a better life, I believe. I mean, once we can, once we have that courage to unpack all of those baggages, for example, then we're able to live a much more free life, a much more happier life, or something. Yeah, yes,
And then
yeah,
you can pack
and
the stuff
that's
you actually want in your bag. Pack for the journey you actually
yes,
want to be on rather than the one you fell into.
that's very true. That's very valid. Yeah, and that's one thing. That's one thing I love about your company too. Like you have this one-on-one coaching services for people. You have like group coaching services for people, and you help them. Like you said, you're going to meet with a client very soon to help unpack those baggages also. That's awesome. And that yes, that also connects to your book. The title, or captivated me, or is captivating actually. Like what's really eating you? And when I saw that, I was like, wow, yes, this is so deep. It's deeper than the words itself. Like I might be eating, thinking, okay, I'm just eating just to numb some pains or whatever. But what's really eating me is that pain, not the food that or the weight I'm gaining from that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's always my first question. What's bothering you? What keeps you up at night? What wakes you in the middle of the night that you want to be rid of? What's that negative thought in the back of your head that affects your behavior? Let's deal with that. Because if we can get you free of that, you're free.
that's true. Yes. Yeah. So what motivated you to write the book? What motivated you to say, yes, now it's time for me to share with the world, about all of these triggers of comfort eating? At what point in your life did you say, yeah, it's the right time, the right moment to do this?
It was 2016. And I thought, okay, this could be a book. And I have written for magazines in the past. I did journalism in college and all of that sort of thing. And I love writing. And I thought, well, this is something I could actually share with the world because I know I'm not the only one who struggled with emotional eating, comfort eating. So I just kind of started gathering ideas. Okay, what are the steps that I went through? Put them each step in a different folder and then just added stuff into the folder to give me material to work with. And then I just put it down on paper and it came out in 2017. So it was, I can try to talk to everyone in the world, but that's probably not going to work. Too many people. But I can tell them my basic structure in a book. And it's now in English as well as Spanish.
That's good. Yes, it's a wonderful gift that you're sharing with the world. Like you're helping a lot of people, millions of people that are struggling with comfort eating. So can you like share some of the insights that you have in this book, like some of the triggers of comfort eating, and your journey that you also shared in the book too?
So it's basically my journey with opportunities for them to reflect on their own. In fact, every chapter has a page for your consideration. And if someone wanted to and could hold them to it, they could study a chapter a week or whatever. They're not real long, and go through the questions and help themselves move toward being rid of comfort eating. That's how I structured it so that they could work through it. But things like recognizing, okay, what specifically are the triggers? When you want to crawl inside the refrigerator, what's going on and what is the trigger food? I knew that when I was circling my refrigerator, going back for yet another spoonful of peanut butter, because that was my food. And it's a perfectly wonderful food, but quantity matters, Toby. You can't have a jar of it a day, right? So I knew that I was in need when I kept going back to the refrigerator. So if you can find your food and then figure out, okay, what's driving that? So do you have a particular food that you love that you know is the one that you use to soothe yourself?
Yes, I do. I mean, I mean, chocolate bars, for example, helps me. It's not really food, but yes, I'll call it a snack or something. Or a lot of nuts also helps me to numb my pains or
So
stress or whatever.
so it's important to find where that started. So do you remember the first time you had that?
It must have
Or
been when I
what's
was
the
very, very
earliest
young.
time you remember? Yeah. Very young. Any kind of
Yeah,
age?
very young. I would say around that 10, 11 years of age. Yeah. I
So
think back then I used to get ice cream or chocolates just as like a gift or compensation for something. I don't know. Yeah.
ice cream is a big one for men. It really is. It's uncanny how often ice cream comes up for men. So
Mm.
when you had that food and it made you feel better, what was going on? And that's the important thing, is figure out, okay, what's going on in that time? Who gave it to you? And what's the connection? Right? So for me, I was really close to my grandmother and we shared a love for peanut butter. And somehow the two were combined. So I found when I was looking for more peanut butter, I was actually looking for the love and encouragement that my grandmother gave me. So I had to say, okay, she is not in that jar. And I need to find a
Yeah.
different way to feel that love and encouragement. And once you figure out, okay, what's driving this? What does it do for me? Now, how do I get that need met in another way? And what will work?
Yes.
So once you
Yes.
once you figure that out, then you can step back from the actual food and it's not going to call your name as much as it did before.
Yeah. That's true. But sometimes when we say, okay, I'm just going to remove the attachment, of that food item to that feeling, there's going to be a void created, in our hearts or in our lives. How do we,
Mhm.
you know, effectively and properly and healthy in a proper way fill up that void? What can we use to fill up that void? Like you said, for example, peanut butter and your grandma, it's connected. Like you feel that comfort from her, encouragement from her, for example. So what did you use to replace that? Like how do you properly replace that in a very healthy way?
So it's different for everyone, just like the food is different for everyone. And you think, okay, what would fill this space that would be healthy, that would be helpful, and wouldn't create a new addiction? Because that's the danger, is you can just create another addiction. So I started out phoning my husband and saying, okay,
Ah,
I need some love and attention. And he would
okay.
obviously give it to me, right? I need some encouragement. And he would list all kinds of things that I had done well. And then I was able to do it for myself. When I feel that vulnerable, I actually have a list in my journal of all the things that I use to help me feel loved and encouraged. It would not help to replace it with another food. Some people do activities. It's like, okay, I just need to go for a walk, or I need to play with the dog, or I just need to take a nap, or I need to study something encouraging. It all depends on you. For me, my list works really well because I can look at it and say, okay, there's this and there's this and there's this, and I'm good at that. And whatever this is that is causing the issue, I'll figure that out because I can do that. And then it'll go on that list, right? So the more we can do it for ourselves, the less likely it is to be as bothersome. But we've got to have the discipline to actually go to that, because
Yeah,
it would be easy
that's
to
true.
just keep doing the same old thing, but that gives us the
Mm.
same old results.
You're very correct. That's true. And I love the fact that you mentioned discipline now because it made me remember, during that 40 years of, you dieting, but whenever there's an event of feast or festival or something like, and there's a lot of food and you get to feast properly and then you just go back to the old ways again. And it's just that's a vicious cycle basically.
Mm.
how,
Mm.
how do we how do we train our how do you train ourselves in a way that we're able to overcome temptations, especially if I visit my family, for example, and the house is full of ice cream, for example, or chocolate bars or chocolate ice cream or whatever that I love to eat. Maybe now living alone, I am able to resist the temptation by not filling my house with snacks and all that kind of things. But I
Mhm.
can't control it when I visit a friend or my parents or when there's an event or something that's to be celebrated.
So it's okay to have a day where you do something off plan. We go for
Yeah.
holidays. We go to my in laws. There are sometimes special events that we attend. But the key for us is that none of that food comes home with us. So my house is a sanctuary, and I don't bring foods in that I don't want to eat.
Yeah.
Now, or if it's something that I really love, then I put it in portion controlled containers in the freezer.
Mm.
And once a week, I can have that. I allow myself that. But I've got
Mm.
the space at the moment, and I've got enough parameters that keep me safe. Now, when I was losing, no, because would have been so easy to have gone off track. But that's
Yes.
part of the maintenance, is allowing yourself things now and again,
Mm.
but not making it a daily habit. So for weight loss, yeah, it's important to find what works for your body and to try to stay away from temptation. But it's going to come anyway. So you choose a few times where you allow yourself. But that's one day or one meal, not a week or a month of them. But it's making a choice for your best rather than what you were trying to get rid of. And that's sometimes a hard adjustment to make. But if you keep trying to make that adjustment, you will. It's just not giving in to your lesser self that wants whatever it wants all the time. But it's making a choice.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
maintenance
And
is
is that the
about
same way?
continuing to make good choices.
That's true. Yeah. So every time or every day we have to be conscious about making good choices concerning what we're eating and concerning everything we are doing in life.
Yeah. And
Mm.
here's the other thing. Some of my clients are like, well, I blew it at lunch and I thought, well, I may as well have whatever I want for dinner. I said, what would have happened if after you blew it at lunch, you went back to your plan at dinner? And they say, oh, well, that would have saved me some calories. I said, uh-huh.
That's
If you
true.
have to blow it at one meal, okay. But don't blow the whole day.
Yes. I know. I was just laughing to that because sometimes I can relate to that totally. Like sometimes I'll make a decision for a week. For example, I'll say, okay, this week I'm going to do this, and then maybe the first hour of Monday I do something else. I was like, oh, maybe next week then. Let me just push through this week and do it anyhow I want to do it. Freestyle it. Yeah. Yeah.
So if I have a big meal at lunchtime, or I know I'm having a big meal at dinner, then I do my best to uh, be a little more circumspect throughout the day. So, okay, I know I'm having this big lunch. I'm going to have something light for dinner. Or if I know I'm going to have a big dinner, I'll have something light at lunch. Because if I have more food at either one, there's got to be a balance somewhere. And you can't enjoy the feasting meal if you're feeling bad about what you had earlier. So it's about maximizing your enjoyment where it comes rather than, I've messed up and I'm going to just eat this. I know it's not going to be good for me, which takes away the joy.
That's true. Yes. Well, but sometimes we have this overwhelming cravings, like, and earlier when you said you portion them, it's like you put them into some smaller bags in the freezer, for example, where you could portion them in a very small quantity. Then I was thinking to myself, sometimes I could have some very very crazy cravings, and I'll just open the
Mhm.
first portion, open the second portion, and open the third portion, and eat it. Renee, can you teach me how to deal with these overwhelming cravings sometimes?
Sure. So here's the way we deal with cravings. You are allowed whatever you want, but there's a caveat. If you're going to eat something that is going to blow your diet or nutrition plan, then make sure you put it on a plate or in a bowl. Sit down at your table, use a knife, fork, spoon, whatever the appropriate implement is. Use a placemat or tablecloth. Make it an event, even if it's just you. But sit down and enjoy every bite of that food because it's going to come back to you in one way or another, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So make sure you enjoy it. And that does two things. One is if you sit and actually enjoy your food, then you don't need as much. My grandmother made great pies, right? So we would eat one piece of pie so fast, we'd barely chew, right? And then we'd want another one because we hadn't really enjoyed it.
Yes,
So
yes. That's true.
sit down and enjoy the food so that you get all the pleasure out of it. Squeeze every bit of flavor out of every bite. And second, that's giving your craving, that's giving the food you're eating the same honor that you're actually giving the craving. If you eat it over the trash can or sink, you are not honoring that food. You're eating it and trying not to get caught. Well, that will diminish your pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah? So sit
Yeah, that's
down,
true.
eat the food, enjoy every bite, make it worth
Mm,
it.
mm.
Do not hide it because that takes
Yes.
all the joy out of it.
That's one thing I'm taking home with me from this episode. Any meal I'm eating, I should eat it with joy and enjoy it, and pay attention to all the flavor and everything that is coming out of the meal. Yes. Yes.
Because that's what
Keep
food
it
is
quiet.
for, right? It's the enjoyment of it. I mean, we need the nutrition and all of that, true. But so often we eat so fast or we eat without thinking about it. I mean, have you been like to a movie or sitting down in front of the TV and eating and suddenly the bag's empty? It's like, I didn't get to enjoy that. And I say, okay, if you're gonna eat mindlessly, have celery because you're gonna enjoy it just as much.
Okay. Why? Does it taste better,
Because you're
or I
not
don't know?
tasting it. You're mindlessly eating it. It gives you the crunch. There are very few calories in it. And
Ah, yeah.
you'll get
Okay.
the chewing and the crunchy, but you won't get all the calories.
Early calories. Oh, that's smart. That's very smart. That's very smart. Renee, we were able to talk about emotional eating, how we could overcome them. Then now I would just love you to advise us on, some diets, tricks, or strategies that we can make use of. Now that we know, yes, we can overcome our comfort eating and emotional eating. Like, what are some ways we could also lose that weight that we want to lose and keep it off forever?
So, one of the most important things I think for humans now is to reduce the amount of refined sugar we eat. I saw something the other day, it was like ridiculous. The amount of sugar we eat in a week or a month is more than people used to eat in a year in the early 90s.
Wow.
Sugar
Wow,
has
that's very
infiltrated everything.
mm,
If you look at ingredient lists, sugar is often a very prominent ingredient. And there's so many names for sugar. There are like 68 names for sugar where they can hide it. But what they figured out is that there is a bliss point, and it's a combination of sugar, fat, and salt that you just can't stop eating it. It makes it addictive. And they've been doing that for the last 50 years. So if we can reduce sugar in our lives, that will help us not eat as much.
Hmm.
You don't have to get rid of it completely, but I'll tell you, when I did, it made life so much easier because you don't get all of those cravings that you used to get. I do not get as hungry as I used to get. So having less sugar is helpful. Another thing is to reduce or eliminate snacking. And this is why. When you take something in your body that has calories in it, your pancreas produces insulin to try to balance out your blood sugar. The only problem is when insulin is flowing through your veins, your fat cells shut and nothing can come out of your fat cells when insulin is flowing through your veins. I don't know about you, but I want my fat cells letting go of fat as often as possible. So every
Yes, of
time you
course.
have a
Yeah.
snack, you're closing off your fat cells again. They can't release anything, but they can store, but they can't release. So to
Yes.
make weight loss go a little faster, just eat your 3 meals and leave off the snacks. That just helps your body rest in between.
Yeah. But then we bring in these cravings again. Like, what about if I am craving for a snack in between meals? What do I do then?
Well, part of what I would suggest is you make sure you get enough food at the previous meal. Protein is a thing and it satisfies us more than the other parts. So if you get enough protein at each meal, you're less likely to be hungry. Somewhere along the way, we decided protein was not so important, but it is because it's the only macro we can't make. We can make fat, we can make carbohydrates, we can make sugars in our body, but we cannot make protein. So if we're running low on protein, the body has to get it from somewhere: muscle tissue, bone. We need those things. We don't need those to go away. So if you make sure you get enough protein at each meal, you will be less hungry. And if you kind of try to push that snack off just a little bit and see if you can have it with your next meal instead, that works.
That way we're able to push the snack until we don't have it at all throughout the day.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
and it may take some time. You may need to push it back 30 minutes or 10 minutes or work it toward your next meal or pull it back toward lunch. But finding a way to reduce the number of times you eat between meals is really important. If you want to lose weight,
Yes.
if you don't care about losing weight, or if you're not diabetic, it's probably okay. But those are important pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks so much for sharing that. There's a lot of people, like before we started recording, I was saying that, this is very, very relevant because there are a lot of people that say, oh, I'm trying my best to lose this weight. I'm not eating as much as I'm supposed to eat, but still I'm gaining more weight. Like, how would you advise someone who is out there who is struggling with weight loss and is doing everything possible?
Yeah. Yeah. See, I lost my weight on a low fat, low calorie diet. The problem was I was tired, hungry, and cranky all the time, but I was determined that I was going to live my way through this.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, I was still struggling to maintain the weight and I was still tired, hungry, and cranky all the time. And I thought, there's got to be something better. So, one of the things that I do with my clients is I put them through this metabolic typing test. And it's just a computer thing, easy, weird questions, but easy. And I followed the nutrition plan that they gave me, looking at it thinking, I don't see how that's going to work, but okay. And I lost 2 pounds that week when I was already at my goal weight, right? So, one of the things I believe is we have to find what works for our body, not your cousins or your best friends, because we're all different. I mean, if you think about it, when a doctor gives you medication, he dials it in for your chemistry. He makes a
Yes.
choice. There are a lot of medications for everything. Which one will work with your chemistry? If they can use our irises and our fingerprints to identify us specifically, then we're all very different. So it's important to find the diet that works for you. If you're tired or hungry or cranky, that's a good sign that your diet's not working for you. It's not the right one for you. So try various things so you can know what does work for your body. Believe me, after that week, my husband was so excited because I wasn't cranky. He said, whatever
That's
it is you're doing now, this is what we're doing. It's like, okay. And then it became easy, right? It became easy. And if I stay on that, if I continue to eat in that particular fashion, then I stay satisfied. And when you're not going to extra food because you are emotional, trying to shut that voice up, or you're not hungry, it saves you a lot of calories.
true. That's very true. Yeah, that's very valid advice. Yeah. Wow. I mean, Renee, I've learned so much from you already. Like, I would just love you to share more about your services. Like, I know you have a lot of clients who will come to you for one-on-one coach and coaching services and group coaching also. Like, can you tell the listeners out there how to reach you and more about your services too?
Okay. Yes, I do groups as well as one on one. I love one on one. That's my favorite. But they can contact me through my website, which is packyourownbag.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all of that.
Yes, I'm going to place all of this link in the show notes of this episode. I encourage everyone to at least visit the website and go through the different, blog stories that are on the website and get across to Renee too for one-on-one service and coaching services or group coaching services also. And the book is available on Amazon. The details also on the website. Everyone that who is interested can also click on the link there or just copy the link and just order the book, read it at your own leisure time, and become a much more better person in terms of your feeding and your personal development. So it helps a lot for that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Renee.
Thank you.
This was awesome.
Thank you very much.